We are here with Bob Seifert of GMT Games. He's actually the lead developer on this game that we're looking at us right in front. I believe it's a prototype of a game called TALON. So tell us, what kind of game is this?
Sure. TALON is a fast-paced fleet tactical combat game where you have these big laminated counters that you mark off stats and weapon charges and that kind of thing with a dry erase marker. And the idea is, unlike other fleet combat games, these aren't miniatures, so you're not buying miniatures separately. All 60 ships for 2 factions comes in one box. You're tracking everything on the counter. So because everything is dry erase, all you have to do is glance at the board and you know if someone's weapons are fully charged, if someone's shields are down, and you can basically predict just looking at the board what's going to happen next. You don't have to constantly reference charts, you're not marking stuff off on another sheet. In fact, this is the only chart in the game, and all this does is you look at this when you roll a die to see how much damage you do, basically. Like I said, we have about 60 ships. It's going to be over 10 scenarios, and there will be a dynamic campaign. Now let me explain. This is actually the board from Space Empires, because these are all prototype counters. The game comes out in December of this year, or roughly around the end of the year. The actual production game board will be slightly bigger hexes, slightly bigger counters, and the hexes will go to the edge of the board. You'll also get 2 boards that can be placed next to each other. So if a battle starts getting big and spreading across the board, you can just move the maps, so the map kind of floats with the battle. It's a hex board, so unlike a miniatures game, the slightest nudge doesn't potentially screw something up. You kind of know where everybody stands on the board in terms of distance from each other.
All right, so could we get you to give us sort of a quick overview of the rules, or sort of a summary rundown of the game?
Sure. The turns operate through impulses. In an impulse, a ship might get the opportunity to move, they might get power, and they might be able to fire their weapons. Power can be spent. Power is like a very finite resource that is being generated by your ship. It can be spent on things like charging up weapons, reinforcing shields, or doing something called a side slip maneuver, which is kind of like strafing. It allows you to move side to side without changing facing. You can also use power to steal the initiative. Stealing the initiative lets you move your guys first, basically, before the other guy. Now, not everybody gets power or move in every turn, and when you do move, you're only ever moving 1 hex at a time. The idea of an impulse system is the faster your ship, the more frequently you get the opportunity to move, rather than that's how many hexes you move in 1 turn. We have a bunch of different kinds of weapons, and the races in the game are pretty asymmetric, but still fairly well tuned and balanced, so you'll be able to play through scripted scenarios that we have and do pickup games on your own.
So you mentioned that the game comes with 60 ships. Is it split into between 2 factions? Are there more factions?
Correct. The base game is going to have 2 factions in it. It's going to have the Terrans, which is your basic humanoids, and their ships tend to be a little tanky, but maybe not great on damage output. And they also have really good power management, so they're able to do more with power than the Talons. So the Talons are the invading race. They're basically the first race we came across when we explored space, and they happen to be extremely warlike. Fortunately for us, they're actually fighting another war, so we're not feeling the full weight and power of their empire. Their ships tend to have really strong forward shields, but really weak everywhere else. They're high damage output, but their ships are much more flimsy. So that's sort of the trade-off there. They're also more mobile. They tend to turn sharper, and they have these things called afterburners that allow them to move an additional space when they wouldn't normally be allowed to move. So they can fly circles around the Terran ships.
Okay, that actually sounds really neat. It might be fun to try out the different sides. This seems very different than a lot of other GMT games out there. I know you're just the developer on this, but would you be able to give us any insight as to sort of the inspiration for this game?
Sure. I mean, one of the big issues, and I love the miniatures games and that kind of thing, but one of the big issues is you don't get everything in one box, and also doing big fleet battles can be a real challenge in a lot of those big miniatures games. Usually, after 2 ships, you might have some real issues kind of juggling everything and managing power on all of the ships on your fleet. In this game, it's very easy to have big fleet battles with 10 ships on 10 ships, and it doesn't ever get bogged down. Because like I said, everything is tracked with a dry erase marker and written straight on the counter. So at a glance, you have an idea of exactly what's going on in the battle. You're not referencing charts, and it still actually plays pretty quickly. We've done 10 on 10 fleet battles in about 2 hours, and the average game with a sort of average number of ships takes about an hour.
Now, is this a 2-player only game?
No, it's ultimately it is for 2 players, but you can split the control of individual ships on one faction up between players. So you can play it with 4 people, basically 2 admirals or 2 fleet commanders controlling specific ships.
All right. Now, since this is a prototype, I know it's not available yet. You mentioned near the end of the year.
Correct.
Where could people
Pre-order the game?
Pre-order the game.
So it's available for pre-order on gmtgames.com. It's currently on sale, about 36% off. And like I said, it's coming out at the end of the year. We're greenlit for production. There's over 600 pre-orders so far. We're really excited for this to come out.
All right. Well, that looks like that's Talon. So thank you for your time.
Thank you.